Goodness, who'd be a politician? Okay. This other thing that I wanted to talk to you about, that just somehow or other jumped out at me. Uh, this is a meeting that started on the 14th of June. That's the day after the attack, with the Bilderberg group. And I did a bit of reading and discovered that they meet every year, and just happened to be in Stockholm this year. I've got the 12th to the 15th there, so obviously Chandra's confused whether it was the 12th, the 13th, or the 14th. But anyway, it was around the weekend. So maybe the Friday might have been maybe they arrived on the 12th, started Friday night. So it's interesting the timing. The Bilderberg group were meeting same day as Trump's birthday, same day as the attack. I discovered that it was Rockefeller who inaugurated this group. One of the puppet masters from the early 20th century. And initially they said, well, we're doing this to prevent another war. But it wasn't long before really it became obvious that they're bolstering capitalism and securing their role of hegemony. They want to remain the puppet masters. It's primarily European and US senior figures in the arenas of politics, industry, finance, academy, and I don't know why I've left the word bank out. Bankers really should be there at the beginning. There's somewhere between 120 and 150 of them, and they meet every year. And when I looked, I realised that there's no set date. And it just was apparently an accident that they were meeting this particular weekend. These are the globalists. Now, they're very, very secretive organisation. Well, you can't even call them an organisation. You can't decide you want to go. You have to be invited. And they have a rule. I forget the name of what they said. A rule that they talk about. They talk a very small amount about what happens in the meetings, and they're never allowed to cite each other. So they don't want any backstabbing going on. It's purported that they are steering world events, installing heads of state governments. They actually have been on record as saying that they are striving for one world government. This was on record back in 2001. And my suspicion, and this last line here in 2025, is that they are implementing the Agenda 2030 that came out of the World Economic Forum some years ago. Fidel Castro had this to say about them. I don't know when that was, back in the 70s possibly. And he said, to install a world government that knows no borders and is not accountable to anyone but itself. Now, that was his estimation of the Bilderberg group. Secret globalists. Now, this year, and I don't know whether they've always been doing this, but this year they actually put up on their website, this is probably because they're trying to say we're open and we're transparent, they actually put up their agenda. Yeah, just a few key pointers. Now, you'll see when I put the agenda up here that where it's in pink, that's my heading. Yeah, they didn't use the words global political control, but they said transatlantic relations, Russia-Ukraine war, Europe and the Middle East, authoritarian axis. I said China, Russia, North Korea. They said defence, innovation and resilience, deterrence and national security. Yeah, this is what they want to talk about. I think this is about maintaining the hegemony. My heading is the New World Government. They said depopulation and migration. Who's being depopulated? Is that the war? What's the migration? Where do they want to send people to? My heading is the US-European economy, the hegemony, that the focus is for that. They said artificial intelligence, I've got the depopulation twice there, and the geopolitics of energy and critical minerals. Yeah. My heading is planning for nuclear war. Their agenda item was proliferation. So this is what they were talking about last weekend. In a nutshell, global control, new world government, maintaining global hegemony, i.e. money, and nuclear war. So the World Economic Forum, with their Great Reset and the Agenda 2030, if you look at their website, and they've got rid of Klaus Schwab's now because he's fallen on his sword or been kicked out for corruption. It all looks very, very user-friendly and very lovely. The way, you know, it's been massaged to sort of look okay, you know. But you know, you've got to. Doesn't take much to smell a rat in the World Economic Forum, and it certainly doesn't take much to smell a rat in the Bilderberg group. And the other thing that they do let people know is who's attending. So I found a list of all the attendees of the Bilderberg 2025. And I discovered that they have what they call a steering committee. So 28 out of the 120 or thereabouts, what's that? A fifth, is that right? Something like that. About a fifth of them are driving the agenda. Yeah. And 12 of those are global bankers. Yeah. So what's that? 40% of them? This is the elite of the elite, and 40% of them are global bankers driving these agendas. Yeah. Yeah. This reminds me of the central banking digital control. And that's the list of the attendees. Now, they were high-ranking people from all of these banks who attended last weekend. And these particular 12 are steering it, and they have the majority vote. You know, 12 out of 24 representatives. I don't even know if they vote or whether they're all in fierce agreement. And then they have, you know, politicians and governments. Politicians and government officials, 11 politicians, including former prime ministers, commanders of armies. The King of the Netherlands was even there. Yeah, commanders of the Indo-Pacific, trade, migration, members of US Congress, politicians from France, Sweden, Canada, and, get this, the director of the Secretary General of NATO. Yeah. This is warmongering. This is shaping global events. There's no other way to look at it but to say we are controlling who runs the planet, the Bilderberg group. And as Shakespeare said, uneasy lies the head that wears the crown. Someone, whoever I stole this quote from, said they need a big crisis in order to install this new updated version of the United Nations. I think it was a month or two ago, and we were talking about the next 8 years and how the United Nations has hit its use by date and it's not working and it's a joke. Well, the Bilderberg group, the global puppet masters, have their own version. They call it the one world government, and they want it installed, but they need a crisis. Well, they've had their dry run with the pandemic, supposed pandemic in 2020, 2021. They've been ushering in the Pandemic Preparedness Accord 2025. Australia's signed it. 124 countries have signed this document. Who hasn't signed it? USA? You've got to say thank goodness. Now, is that thank goodness to Trump? I would think so. Poland? Israel? Why doesn't Israel want to sign it? Because they're a law to themselves? I don't know. Italy? Russia? Hallelujah to Russia. Slovakia and Iran. Yeah? So it's fairly clear a big crisis is needed to usher in the one world government. And this is part and parcel, I think, of what they're discussing last week, because the old United Nations has fallen over and isn't working. Yes, so the bankers to bring in the central bank digital currency and the steering committee. Yeah, big banks, World Economic Forum, there they are. A representative from the World Economic Forum has been in attendance at the Bilderberg last weekend, along with Citigroup, Goldman Sachs. Hang on, weren't they the guys that collapsed the world economy some time ago? Bloomberg, EU banks, Deutsche Bank, they're all up to their eyeballs in it. And 7 other European, and I think it's 1 Canadian bank. No Australian one's too small. So we know that this this big reset and the getting rid of the power structures and the banking structures and the government structures, and war cannot happen without the big tech overlords. They are absolutely hand in glove with the bankers, with big pharma, big agriculture, the deep state. On the steering committee of Bilderberg, ensuring the global digital surveillance is there. This is the AI, the techno-feudalism, the misinformation, the drones. You know, that they're kind of controlling and running the war, and at the same time building the digital prison. Who are the companies? This is Palantir. Yeah, they're the ones that want to biohack us. You know, they're up to their eyeballs in all of this technology. And I saw something yesterday or the day before about the fact that Donald Trump's big beautiful bill, where he gets rid of all the people who aren't Americans, yeah, that they're using AI technology that comes from Palantir in order to orchestrate this, you know, clearing out of people from other places, South America primarily. Microsoft, of course, we know, Google, Thiel Capital, this guy here is co-founder with the Palantir, and these other ones I hadn't even heard of. But on the steering committee, and there's only 26 of them on the steering committee, 14 of them, was that right, before, are bankers, 8 of them are big tech. So they're basically dominating the steering committee, big tech and the bankers. That says it all. In order for the puppet masters to maintain the money and the control, they have to work with big tech. Terrifying scenario. And the drones. And the drones. I was listening just late today to someone talking about the fact that the Russians have developed drone technology that is far, far, far superior to anything that the West has. And then, of course, the technocrats, they're not going to stop at the AI or the digital prison or drones, because what's Elon Musk want to do with the Starlink? I think that the goal is domination of space. But I think it was yesterday or today that one of Elon Musk's rockets came crashing down and exploded everywhere. I'm hoping that the Holy Ones will stop that from happening. And the digital world, this is Catherine Austin Fitz talks about the AI being involved in money and assets and transport and houses and data and food and farming and phones and technology and all the QR codes and, of course, the elections. Yeah. And we know who the players are. These are the puppet masters, some of them: Alex Karp, Peter Thiel, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk. I'm running out of time, I know. The businessmen, they didn't seem to be up there in the steering committee, but they're still there. The steering committee are the ones in pink here. This is Google, Microsoft, Thiel. These ones here I'd never even heard of. They're apparently big agriculture. I assume that's when they say we have to all eat insects. I don't know, but I'm suspicious that that's who they are. And the other ones who are players but not on the steering committee, Pfizer, think the jab. And I don't know what on earth Spotify is doing there. I did see a complete list of all the 120 delegates. It's a very large list. They have depopulation agenda. Well, wars are depopulation, aren't they? So is the death vax. That vax, the 2020, that was depopulation. Food modification, is that part of depopulation? Is it this merger between the algorithms and the brain, the biohacking of the human DNA? Yeah. But we know on the steering committee we have Roche, I'm assuming, sorry, I've gone back there. We have Roche, I think they're up to their eyeballs in the vaccines, Palantir with the robotics and warfare and AI, and this other DSM, they look German, I'm not sure, they're big ag. Yeah, so these are Machiavellian evil plans that can't be allowed to happen. And I'm so sorry that this discussion is so heavy. It's just a heavy subject, you know. There they are: Pfizer, Palantir, Google, DeepMind, Microsoft, Thiel, the depopulation agenda, media moguls. I didn't see the Australian media moguls in there, but I don't know who sits on whose boards, but I think I've exhausted, I've depressed myself. I'm very sorry. It's all about misinformation and disinformation and fake news and humans being controlled. It's seriously depressing. And I think I'm going to stop because I definitely have seriously depressed myself. But I will post the PDF up. But I wanted to show you this Chaz Freeman, very, very fantastic hour-long talk on Turning Point for Russia and the World, and Alex Kramer. We saw a little bit of that, and I've got a feeling there was another talk of his and I've failed to put the link in. Yes.